Hi, my name's Mark. I'm one of the pastors here at Trillium. On Sunday, we looked at the story of Jesus' journey to Nain. Nain's a small town in Palestine. Jesus and his disciples, and it says a large crowd, followed after him to the city of Nain. Maybe these people in the large crowd wanted to see if Jesus was up to anything. And they weren't disappointed, because as Jesus and the disciples in the crowd approached the town of Nain, out from Nain comes this funeral procession. This woman, described as a widow, has lost her only son. And this woman's endured two tragedies, the loss of her husband and now the loss of her son. That would seem bad enough, but in the ancient world, a woman who had no male support, either a husband or sons, was in a very precarious place. Her security in life and her advocacy in the world was through her husband or her sons. To have neither would put her in a very bad place. And she is in the midst of this throng of people as the funeral procession is going out, and she has no one for her. It doesn't say exactly what happened when the two crowds met, the group going with Jesus and the funeral procession, but in my own mind's eye, I see Jesus and the disciples stepping to one side of the road to let the funeral procession go by out of respect for the young man and for the mother. Maybe the crowd that followed after him parts and the funeral procession begins to go by. It says in that moment that Jesus had sorrow for this woman. Actually, the word is Splagkhna. I love the sound of that word, the Splagkhna. And it means the intestines inside of someone, the deep intestines that live within you. See, in the ancient world, they believed that the brain housed the will and your heart housed your intellect and your conscience, and that your intestines housed your emotions. And I don't know about the first two, but I certainly know that a lot of times my emotions seem to reside in my gut. I certainly can get that. And it says that Jesus had this Splagkhna for her. They had this deep, visceral compassion for her. He felt it so deep that it went right into his gut. And he felt a sense of deep concern for her well-being and her situation. And it got me thinking about, who was the last person I had that deep Splagkhna for? I'm trying to think through my life. Who was the last person? Who was the last person you had this deep, visceral concern for, a worry for, a love or a compassion for in life? You know, sometimes, we get so busy with our day-to-day experiences and with the pace of life that we live in and with all the technology around us that we kind of lose track about what's going on in other people's lives around us. That's quite understandable. I mean, who really knows what's going on inside another person's head? I mean, who knows what's going on in our own head, our own lives? Who really knows, other than ourselves, what's going on inside of us? On Sunday we looked at the whole idea of orphans, especially in fiction. There's so many great fictional characters that were orphans. Dorothy, in The Wizard of Oz, Harry Potter, Luke Skywalker, Batman, Bruce Wayne, he was an orphan. So was Clark Kent, aka Superman. So was Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man. I mean, I could keep adding to the list: Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer. I could keep adding to the list. Hey, Paddington Bear is an orphan. And there's something compelling about the state of an orphan that makes authors want to use this theme. And I think part of it has to do with the fact that, in a sense, we're all orphans in life. Even if we have family, even if we have close friends supporting us, we're, in a sense, always, inside our own lives by ourselves. And the challenge around that is we sometimes lose track of what's going on in other people, because who can really know what's going on inside of them? And yet, when we have these experiences of Splagkhna for others, this deep, visceral compassion for others, we kind of get out of ourselves and we reach out, in a sense, to other people. Our heart goes out to them, our intention goes out to them, our energy goes out to them. And what the story in the Gospel of Luke, the story of Jesus' journey to Nain, is to say that God has Splagkhna for us. God has a deep, deep concern and passion for us in life. And for that reason, we can never be alone in the circumstances we find ourselves in. The Bible's constantly telling us that the creator of the universe draws so close to us that even before we think our own thought, God knows what it is. And God's so close to us that God can feel our breath, each breath that we take. And I find that very reassuring for my own self. I met that creator when I was about 19 years old, when I fell into a deep pit in life. I fell into a really dark place. And at the very bottom of it, I met God. I met the creator of the universe. And I knew in that moment that no matter what I faced in life, that the creator of the universe was with me. Changed everything for me. That knowledge can change everything for you. You know, sometimes it doesn't have to be that dramatic. Sometimes it's merely the special advocacy that someone can offer to us in the moment, a concern, a heartfelt burst for us, a kind word, an extension of hospitality, of welcome. Sometimes, in fact, God intends to use us as the conduit of his blessing to the world. God's Splagkhna comes through us into our own experience, and we experience that Splagkhna for others. Do we recognize it as actually a divine yearning moving through us, a wave of energy, of love moving through us to other people? Welcome that experience. Welcome the Splagkhna wave of love from you to the world. Recognize it again for what it is, and allow these holy purposes to fulfill themselves in the way that you move amongst other people. You'll both give blessing and you'll receive blessing beyond measure. And you will be at one with God's intention for life. I pray that you will embrace this way of seeing the world, of being a part of it, of being the extension of God's presence in all places. Go in peace.